and welcome to This Is Now. As the search continues in the disaster zone in Lahaina, we're learning more about what challenges and how Maui firefighters have been impacted.
And this morning, the head of the Hawaii Firefighters Association spoke about the night of the disaster and the ensuing relief efforts. Now, Union President Bobby Lee tells us 20 firefighters lost their homes while responding to the Lahaina blaze. And the next morning, the California Firefighters Union president reached out offering assistance and is helping send over RV trailers to provide temporary housing for those displaced. In regard to injuries, Lee says one firefighter is still recovering at Queens Medical Center, while 2 retirees remain at the Straub burn unit. Lee also discussed the horrific conditions facing crews the night of August 8th.
They're walking into a blowtorch. That's what you're walking into with that level of wind. Houses are on fire, and the fire is not going up. The fire is going sideways from house to house, which is a whole different environment. And then when you tack in the lack of resources, there's only so many companies there. And then you have water issues when now the water stops, and it just creates a situation that is so untenable. Firefighters, we are a family. We live in our stations. The stations are our second home. We are family. It doesn't matter if you're active duty or retired. We do take care of our own. You can run into a lot of retired firefighters out there that will still tell you, I might be retired, but I'm a firefighter. I might be retired, but I'm still a fire captain, And so our family runs very deep.
The trailers will be arriving in Kahului next week. Lee also says the union is offering mental and emotional support services.
And now we turn to the latest on the search efforts. In a news conference yesterday, FBI officials alongside Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson announced that the remaining number of people still unaccounted for is closer to 1,100. Our Casey Lunn has more on that.
Unimaginable work that so many people are a part of on the ground here in Lahaina. And yesterday, as we learned about more of those victims, we also learned that the number of those that accounted for is now closer to 1,100. You may remember Mayor Richard Bisson recently updated folks on social media that number was around 850. But yesterday at that press conference, which ran very long and was at times emotional and very, very disturbing, hearing some of these details, we were updated with that new number. Now, again, Mayor Bisson says that work is still ongoing, and the work that goes into tracking down the unaccounted for is a daunting and desperate process for the families who are trying to find their loved ones, or at least some closure. He said the information authorities are getting from family members can often be incomplete. For example, sometimes people are given just their first names. Also at that news conference yesterday was Maui Police Chief John Pelletier, who said while recovery teams with cadaver dogs continue to scour Lahaina town, it'll be challenging to provide a complete list of those confirmed dead and their identities. Though after asked by HNN, he told the press that is the ultimate goal.
Please understand this. Once the search is done, I can't guarantee, nor can anyone say that we got everybody. We're going to do our darndest to get it right and make every effort to do that. 2,000 people on 9/11 were not recovered. We don't have that type of devastation with the towers like we saw there, but we have an entire town that's destroyed.
Here's a really important note to make. There are a lot of different teams assisting with identifying the remains based on DNA, but officials say they all are working together. Maui prosecuting attorney Andrew Martin pleaded with family and friends of the missing to provide samples of DNA to help in that effort. So far, at the time of that 3 p.m. press conference, just 104 DNA samples had been collected. Now, Martin oversees the Family Assistance Center at the Hyatt Regency's Monarch Ballroom, that's in Ka'anapili. He's urging people, if you have someone missing and you can make it there, come down, provide information, provide a DNA sample. He also stressed that those DNA samples are only being used to search for those missing individuals. He also said that if folks can't make it to that location, if they're off island or out of the state of Hawaii, they can go ahead and mail in some information. They can still provide a DNA sample. You have all that information listed for you, by the way, as well as filing a police report with the Maui Police Department. Chief said that that is also very helpful to provide any information you can. You can find it all at Hawaii News Now.
Meanwhile, we continue to learn more about the victims of these deadly wildfires as Maui County has released 8 more names. 74-year-old Clyde Wakita, 68-year-old Todd Yamafuji, 64-year-old Antonia Molina, and 59-year-old Freeman Tam Lung. We've also identified 67-year-old Joseph Schilling and 67-year-old Narcisco Belosis Jr. and 67-year-old Vanessa Belosis, all from Lahaina, as well as 72-year-old Teresa Cook of California. As Mahealani Richardson reports, more family members are coming forward to remember their loved ones.
The tributes are growing of people who left this earth too soon. These are the souls so far who were lost in the fire, but remembered as people who cherished Lahaina and were beloved by their family and community. Kiera Fuentes was almost 15. The teen was home alone on the last day of summer vacation when fire tore through Lahaina. 2 days later, his family found his body in his bedroom. They wrapped him in a tarp and carried him half a mile to a police station.
Todo consumido.
But when I got to his bedroom, he was there, lying and hugging my dog. But he was not as I expected, in ashes. God maintained him like this, so we knew it was him.
79-year-old Alfredo Galanado was killed after staying behind in hopes of saving the home he worked so long to build. The family remembers him as a dependable and great husband, father, and grandfather.
He is such a loving person with my son and daughter. He loved every moment being with them.
Carol Hartley lived in Lahaina for 40 years. She and her partner Charles tried to escape together.
You can't see nothing in front of you, nothing. He said, I just took off and I ran, Donna Jo, and I was hollering, and Carol, baby, run, just run to the water, run. Go, Charles, go, Charles. And so they were sort of just communicating, getting out by screaming because they couldn't see each other.
Hartley's sister says Charles collapsed. Someone found him and took him to the hospital. Later, he found her remains on their property and recognized the watch she was wearing. Now his sister is remembering their good times together.
And she was a great hostess to people that she knew.
A friend of 57-year-old Becky Wells says she and her partner Douglas Gliogi died together on the street.
She wasn't able to run, and all she was able to do is walk. And they got 2 to 3 blocks away from their house and behind a building of Subway, and that's when the fire took over.
Loved ones say she loved being near the water and had plans for her friend to visit.
Well, it's been just over 2 weeks since the wildfires decimated Lahaina, and many have been grieving the loss of loved ones and of a beloved town. Others from afar say they feel helpless, and the event has taken a toll on their mental health. Advocates are hoping those who are experiencing distress reach out for help. Our digital producer, Megan Ramones, spoke with a licensed therapist who explains how to navigate trauma and grief and provides a way to cope.
How do you begin to kind of just process through everything that's been happening?
Slowly, steadily, and you are graceful with yourself. Mm-hmm. Because if you're looking for the fast road toward recovery, it's just simply not there. The super honest answer is that it's super long and really, really hard. There's just nothing simple or easy or quick about it. It's complex and layered. In the moment, what we want to do is validate where they are right now. And if they're in a really difficult space right now, we need to just sit there with them.
You can listen to the full podcast and find a growing list of mental health resources related to the Maui wildfires on HawaiiNewsNow.com.
As the fires spread, the Pacific's top emergency management leaders were together at a conference on Oahu. The FEMA conference was about how to respond to disasters and crisis situations. HNN Investigates reporter Allison Blair has the details about who was there and what they did the day it all happened.
Those in attendance were quite literally the who's who of disaster response, both locally and from across the Pacific region. They were gathered in Waikiki for an annual FEMA disaster meeting, a half-hour plane ride away from a wildfire that would become the deadliest in the United States in more than a century. As tropical storm force winds whipped up wildfires on Maui August 8th, thousands were unaware they were in the crosshairs of a deadly inferno. That evening, Lahaina town was leveled. In the ashes are the remains of an unknown number of people unable to escape.
So many people that I know said we never knew anything about the fire.
That same day, several of the country's top emergency management officials were in Hawaii hosting an annual conference. The agenda listed 74 attendees at this year's Pacific Partnership meeting, including FEMA leadership and several members of the Center for Homeland Defense and Security. HNN Investigates confirmed the head of Maui County's emergency management agency, Herman Andaya, was also on hand, along with as many as 6 leaders from the state's emergency management office, including Director Major General Kenneth Hara, Administrator James Barros, and Executive Officer Don Aveao. In an email, a state emergency management spokesperson said those officials were part of a coordinating call about 11 a.m. to discuss multiple wildfires that had sparked on Big Island and Maui. That spokesperson went on to say HIEMA personnel attending the meeting were updated on developments throughout the day. FEMA confirmed the fires were indeed part of discussions during the conference.
There were consultations about the fires among local, state, and FEMA participants.
We asked both Maui County and the state who was left in charge while those local emergency officials attended the meeting and at what time they were made aware of the catastrophe unfolding in Lahaina. Despite multiple requests, those questions remain unanswered. Meanwhile, many who experienced the horror of that day firsthand say government failed them by not sounding the emergency sirens.
It's inexcusable, really. It's inexcusable. A lot of people probably could have gotten out.
We've confirmed the acting governor at the time, Sylvia Luke, authorized an initial emergency proclamation for the multiple fires that were burning on Maui and Big Island at 3:21 that Tuesday afternoon. What's still unclear is when Andaya and Major General Hara left the meeting to respond to the emergency. A state spokesperson tells us Barros and Aveao returned to the state's Emergency Operations Center a little after 5 that afternoon. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
The U.S. Small Business Administration has launched a new disaster recovery loan program to provide immediate financial assistance. Businesses as well as nonprofits are eligible for long-term, low-interest loans of up to $2 million. The SBA says it's already received more than 200 applications in the last 2 weeks. All businesses on Maui can qualify for some form of financial assistance, including those damaged by the fires and those who are experiencing the disaster's economic ripple effects.
A business may or may not have suffered any physical damage, but if their customers aren't coming in because they've left Lahaina and maybe you're a business in Ka'anapali that relies on Lahaina residents, then that would cause an economic impact to your business.
$500,000 loans are available for homeowners who suffered property damage, and renters can also apply for assistance. The SBA has a field office in Kihei and can help recover lost financial records. Those interested can apply online at disasterloanassistance.sba.gov.
Well, the outpouring of aloha and support continues there on Maui. Our Keahi Tucker shows us about one church who's doing all they can to help the survivors, while some of their own members lost everything themselves.
It's not exactly a field of dreams. This project is born of the nightmare in Lahaina. These are foundations for temporary homes. In about a month, they'll be filling this field. Across the highway from the field at King's Cathedral, every spare room is now a storage site with piles of donations for fire victims.
We welcome all the families that have been, devastated through the wildfires to come and get what they need.
The Kahului Church, which lost its Lahaina location in the fire, buzzes with volunteers trying to be of service while still grieving themselves.
My parents' home burned to the ground. My sister's home burned to the ground. My niece's house burned to the ground. I work here as receiving, and I can't believe how many truckloads and helicopters we had to come here, dropping off things.
Amid all the work, things are falling into place for an even bigger project.
We'll have units in this section and this section.
Back across the highway, where the church owns 10 acres of scrubland.
We're trying to get over 200 of these mobile homes here. The Hungarian government flew these, I think about 30 of them, over on a C-17 for free. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
Pastor Joshua Morocco, working with numerous aid groups, secured these temporary homes, and teams of people are now helping to set them up on the fly.
We're learning a lot, how much you have to coordinate.
And here you are trying to figure out sewage and solar and water.
Water, everything, because this was bare land. So to go from bare land to having a product on the ground in 2 weeks is pretty incredible.
We thank God for the generosity of the hotels, but you can stay in a hotel for only so long before you start needing a place where you can cook your own food, and these will have bathrooms and kitchens.
They think the new village might be needed for 2 years. They aren't sure yet who will stay there, but they aren't waiting for the government to figure it all out. If all goes well, the first evacuees will be moved into these temporary homes by late September. In Kahului, I'm Keahi Tucker, Hawaii News Now.
And we'll continue to provide any updates on the Maui wildfires as they come in. Let's look now to some other news around Hawaii. Police say a man in his 70s died after crashing into a shipping container in the parking lot of Waipio Costco. Now, the scene of this crash was behind the store. This is video from when it happened around 8 o'clock last night. The man was driving through an alley when police say he suddenly accelerated and crashed his vehicle into the 40-foot container. It's not clear why he accelerated. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police believe speed was a factor. On Kauai, police say a man was found dead in a home after his house went up in flames on Kaumakani Avenue Monday morning. A preliminary investigation showed that he actually died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The incident remains under investigation. He hasn't yet been publicly identified.
On the Big Island, 40-year-old James Kepa is charged with kidnapping and sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl. Court documents say the victim is Kepa's relative. She told police he tied her up and beat her last Tuesday at a home in Hawaiian Paradise Park. He faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Bail is set at more than $600,000. Well, in Georgia, the investigation into the 2020 election continues, and today a key ally of former President Donald Trump, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, turned himself in to authorities. Christian Benavides reports.
Rudy Giuliani was all smiles as he left New York on his way to Atlanta Wednesday.
I'm feeling very, very good about it because I feel like I'm defending the rights of all Americans.
He turned himself in to face charges of trying to help overturn former President Trump's 2020 electoral loss in Georgia, but the Trump ally remains defiant.
I'm fighting for justice. I have been from the first moment. I represented Donald Trump, an innocent man.
A Fulton County grand jury returned a 41-count indictment last week, charging 19 people, including Giuliani and Trump, with participating in a criminal enterprise aimed at keeping Trump in office after his loss. The former president is now facing 13 felony counts, including violating Georgia's RICO Act, a common racketeering law.
Trump, who has denied all wrongdoing, said he will turn himself in on Thursday and has agreed to a $200,000 bond.
With Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis setting a deadline of noon Friday for defendants to surrender voluntarily, many have already appeared at the Fulton County Jail to be booked, but others, including former Justice Department lawyer Jeffrey Clark and Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff, are seeking to have their prosecution moved to federal court. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Atlanta.
Sticking with politics, the lineup for the first Republican presidential debate of the 2024 campaign is set. Gloria Pazmino is at the debate site in Milwaukee and gives us a look.
It's on in Milwaukee. Republican presidential hopefuls taking the national stage without the party's frontrunner, former President Donald Trump.
The truth is, many people in this country didn't even know who I was 6 months ago. So this is a good opportunity for me to introduce myself to the country. He's been on that debate stage countless times. He's also been U.S. president for 4 years. So if he wants to skip the first couple of them, I have no issue with that.
I think he owes it to people. I don't think our voters, even people that appreciate what he did, and I'm actually one that appreciated a lot of what he did too, I don't think they're going to look kindly on somebody that thinks they don't have to earn it.
8 candidates met the Republican National Committee's criteria for the debate, including former Vice President Mike Pence, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Each one looking for and needing a breakout moment.
When it comes to a multi-field debate like tonight, you're competing with time with 7 other candidates. You can't afford not to capture people's attention early on.
The attention of voters like Carolyn Quinlan of Wisconsin.
Well, I'm still learning about all of them. I've been really interested in DeSantis, Haley. I'm interested in her.
Once this debate happens this week, it's off to the races.
In Milwaukee, I'm Gloria Pasmino.
Back here at home, give you a look over Honolulu right now on this Wednesday afternoon. The forecast is stabilizing a bit after all the talk of the remnants of her tropical storm Fernanda breaking up south of the islands. Guy Hoggy has your forecast for the rest of the week.
How's it on this Wednesday? We have some really nice calm weather over the next several days. Nothing too dramatic in terms of change. There are some showers upstream, but really there's not much rain out there. As you know, it's been very dry across state, drought-stricken areas for many leeward spots, and that's not going to get any help. We're not expecting much rain anytime soon. If anything, a few windward and Mocha showers are expected in the overnight and early morning hours. And the winds will run pretty firm today at about 15 to 25 miles an hour. That's going to help us deal with the humidity levels from climbing too high. With all the sunshine, though, temperatures will be running to near 90 for some leeward spots, and the surf will be building. Remember Hurricane Hillary, which went up to California and swamped them? Well, it's going to send us a swell today, 6 to 8 feet. This is the meat of the swell today. It's then going to start to drop over the next several days. And South Shore still got some shoulder-high sets, some fun stuff. So overall, the weather's not going to change anytime soon in any significant way. The winds will run firm today, 15 to 25 at moderate levels all the way through Sunday, and slowly easing up for just a time on Monday, picking up again on Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Guy. We appreciate the forecast.
Yeah, in other news, Honolulu EMS is looking to hire 50 EMTs. They're accepting applications today and tomorrow. Applicants must have a high school diploma or equivalent and a driver's license. If accepted, applicants must pass a written test to enter a 6-month training academy program that begins on July 1st of next year. To apply, look for the link at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Yeah, and we also want to go ahead and give you an update on a concert that happened recently. A beautiful event out there at Bishop Museum. The Maui Ola Benefit Concert has raised nearly $1 million. All of that going to support the survivors of the Maui wildfires. Now, you can watch the concert on mele.com and social media platforms. It's just so nice to see, Mark, everyone coming together in whatever way, shape, or form it may be to help the people of Maui.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since the fires, and you've already had several events giving back to the victims and those affected, and there will continue to be more events like this.
Yeah, and clearly a lot of emotion and tears in the eyes of the attendees and the participants there. We're going to keep a close eye on all the developments out of Maui. Thank you for sticking with us on air and online.